There's a reason the most powerful people in the world are often the calmest in the room. It's not that they don't face pressure, criticism, or chaos. It's that they've trained themselves to stay unmoved by it. When you begin to master the power of inner stillness, you no longer react to everything around you. You start responding from a place of strength, from a place of vision, not emotion. And that's when everything starts to change. Stillness isn't weakness, it's control. It's having the clarity to pause before you speak, to breathe before you move, to discern before you decide. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your reaction, your energy, you must learn to guard your peace like it's your greatest possession. Because it is. Your peace is the foundation of your power. Every day, we're bombarded with situations that test our patience. People cutting us off in traffic, passive-aggressive comments, unexpected delays, disappointments, rejections, even subtle disrespect. And while you can't stop those things from happening, you can decide how you experience them. That's the shift. That's the training. To stop letting outside circumstances dictate your inside condition. Most people live like emotional thermometers, constantly rising and falling based on what's happening around them. But if you want to be unbothered, you've got to become a thermostat. You set the tone. You set the temperature. You walk into rooms and carry peace with you, not panic. That takes training. That takes intentional practice, but it's possible. It starts with self-awareness. You've got to become familiar with your emotional triggers. What makes you lose your peace? What gets under your skin? Who has the power to disrupt your mood just by speaking? Be honest with yourself, because what you don't identify, you can't improve. Once you know your triggers, you can start preparing your mind ahead of time. You can begin to train your brain to say, even if this happens today, I will not be moved. Even if they act like that, I will remain steady. Even if I don't get the outcome I wanted, I still have control over how I carry myself. Stillness is not pretending you don't care. It's realizing you don't have to care about everything. There is a difference. When you stop giving energy to every comment, every hater, every inconvenience, you conserve strength for the things that really matter. People who are constantly bothered are constantly drained. They're pulled in every direction because they've never trained their mind to stand still in the middle of noise. But stillness isn't silence. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things from the right mindset. It's about slowing down internally so you can move wisely externally. The fastest way to burn out is trying to fix everything that upsets you. That's not wisdom. That's reaction. And reactions are expensive. They cost you your peace, your time, your progress. Training yourself to get unbothered doesn't mean you don't feel things. It means your feelings don't control you. That's a sign of maturity. When you can feel anger but choose patience, feel offense but choose grace, feel stress but choose strategy. That's how kings think. That's how queens move. Calm isn't natural. It's built. It's chosen. It's protected. And understand this, stillness multiplies strength. When your mind is clear, your focus sharpens. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve your future. You stop needing validation to stay motivated. You stop letting someone else's chaos become your personal storm. Some people are not mad at you. They're mad at life. Don't absorb their energy. Stay rooted. Stay planted. Don't get pulled out of your peace trying to correct every false narrative or defend yourself to people who have already made up their minds. When you train yourself to get unbothered, you begin to see setbacks differently. You start realizing not every closed door is rejection, it's protection. You understand that sometimes delays are divine. And when things don't go your way, you don't collapse, you course correct, you pivot. Because you're not led by emotion, you're led by purpose. And let me tell you this, your peace is not passive, it's powerful. It takes courage to walk away from drama. It takes strength to not clap back. It takes discipline to choose stillness over reaction. But when you do, you rise. You rise above offense. You rise above negativity. You rise into clarity, confidence, and direction. Stillness teaches you that not everything deserves a response. Some battles are won by silence. Some victories come from restraint. And when you realize your attention is an investment, you'll start spending it wisely. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every situation requires your energy. Sometimes the greatest power move you can make is to stay unmoved. That's the beginning of becoming unbothered. When you choose to be rooted in stillness, even when everything around you is shaking, one of the most powerful things you can do for your growth is to stop feeding what drains you. Not every thought deserves to be entertained. Not every emotion needs to be nurtured. And not every situation is worth your energy. The more you train your mind to recognize what pulls you away from peace, purpose, and power, the easier it becomes to stay grounded, focused, and unbothered. We live in a world that profits from our distraction. Everywhere you look, something or someone is trying to pull your attention away from what truly matters. Social media arguments, comparison traps, old wounds, replaying in your mind like broken records. These things don't just steal your peace, they steal your momentum. And if you don't learn to starve these distractions, you'll find yourself exhausted from fighting battles that don't even belong to you. Just because something shows up in your life doesn't mean you have to feed it. You don't have to water every seed that's planted in your mind, especially the negative ones. That insecure thought, starve it. That need for validation, starve it. That obsession with someone else's opinion, starve it. You don't have to give energy to everything that knocks on your mental door. You can train yourself to pause, observe, and choose your focus intentionally. The truth is, a lot of the heaviness we carry isn't coming from our circumstances. It's coming from what we choose to give energy to. You can have one negative conversation in the morning and carry it into your whole day if you're not careful. That's how sneaky energy leaks are. They start small, just a comment, a feeling, a fear. And before you know it, they've taken over your mindset. But once you become aware of what's draining you, you can begin to cut the cord. You can take your power back. Let me be clear, protecting your peace is not about avoidance. It's about alignment. It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about refusing to be consumed by them. There's a big difference between facing an issue and feeding it. Feeding it looks like replaying it over and over in your head. Feeding it looks like talking about it nonstop, even after it's over. Feeding it looks like letting it shape how you treat people who had nothing to do with it. That's how we waste our strength. That's how we get stuck. To get unbothered, you have to make peace a priority. That means saying no more often. That means removing yourself from toxic conversations that go nowhere. That means not chasing closure from people who don't value your peace. You don't have to win every argument. You don't need to prove every point. You don't owe everyone access to your energy just because they want it. There's freedom in letting things go that don't grow you. And this isn't about being passive. It's about being purposeful. It's knowing that your time and your attention are sacred. It's realizing that every moment spent feeding what drains you is a moment you could have spent feeding what fuels you. Your faith, your focus, your future. Because here's the truth. whatever you feed grows. Feed your fear, it grows. Feed your frustration, it grows. But feed your faith, feed your discipline, feed your goals, and those things begin to take root. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is disconnect. Disconnect from drama, disconnect from gossip, disconnect from opinions that weren't invited. Your peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. If you're constantly plugged into everything and everyone, how can you hear your own thoughts? How can you listen to the voice of God, the pull of your purpose, the whisper of wisdom? You must be intentional about where your energy goes. Protect your mornings. Guard your routines. Set boundaries that don't need to be explained. You don't need to justify why you're protecting your energy. Your peace is reason enough. When you stop feeding what drains you, you start fueling what empowers you. You begin to see clearer, think sharper, and move with more confidence. And here's something important sometimes. What drains you isn't a person or a place. It's a habit. It's procrastination. It's self-doubt. It's staying connected to the old version of yourself because you're afraid to grow. But the longer you feed those habits, the harder it becomes to walk in freedom. You've got to interrupt the cycle. You've got to starve what's been holding you hostage. This is where discipline comes in. Because training yourself to get unbothered isn't just about avoiding distractions. It's about consistently choosing better ones. Replace scrolling with studying. Replace complaining with gratitude. Replace worry with prayer. Replace drama with direction. These swaps may seem small at first, but they compound. They build a mindset that's rooted in peace, not pressure. And don't get discouraged when it doesn't happen overnight. Just like you don't build muscle in one workout, you don't build emotional strength in one decision. This is daily work, daily choices. But each time you choose to walk away from what drains you, you're strengthening your ability to stay unbothered. Each time you protect your peace, you're telling your future, I'm serious about this. Stop feeding what drains you, and you'll be amazed how light life feels. Getting unbothered isn't just a mindset, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it has to be trained, stretched, challenged, and built over time. You don't wake up emotionally strong one day by accident. You train for it. You prepare for it. Just like you go to the gym to strengthen your body, you have to put yourself through mental and emotional reps to build resilience. The stronger your internal discipline, the less external situations can shake you. But let's be honest. It's easy to react. It's easy to get offended. It's easy to let your feelings run your day. What's hard is rising above your first impulse and choosing a higher response. That's why discipline matters. That's why routines matter. Because how you show up when life is calm determines how you'll respond when life gets chaotic. If you only train when you're under pressure, you'll collapse when the pressure increases. But if you build your discipline daily, even in the quiet moments, you'll find yourself standing strong when the storm comes. Discipline isn't just about doing what's right. It's about doing it consistently, even when you don't feel like it. It's about waking up and choosing peace when your emotions want to choose chaos. It's about responding with wisdom when everything inside you wants to react with heat. This is the deep work most people avoid. But this is where true freedom is born. You stop being a slave to your emotions and start being a master of your mindset. That's the difference between people who live on edge and those who walk in confidence. Emotional strength doesn't come from avoiding pressure. It comes from training under it. You've got to learn to sit with discomfort without needing to escape it. You've got to be able to hear criticism without crumbling. You've got to get comfortable with being misunderstood without needing to defend yourself every time. That's not weakness. That's maturity. That's power. And one of the most powerful disciplines you can build is the ability to pause. Just pause. That 2-second window between stimulus and response, that's where strength is built. That's where growth happens. Most people live in reaction mode. They don't even think, they just feel and respond. But when you learn to pause, you create space for clarity. You give yourself the chance to respond from truth, not emotion. You stop giving people the remote control to your peace. Discipline looks like journaling when you'd rather scroll. It looks like praying instead of panicking. It looks like choosing forgiveness over resentment. And none of that is easy, but all of it is worth it. Because every time you choose discipline, you build a foundation of emotional strength. You train yourself to be unbothered, not by numbing your feelings, but by leading them. And let me say this, just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to follow it. You can feel anger and still choose patience. You can feel insecurity and still choose confidence. You can feel tired and still choose to show up. That's emotional maturity. When your choices are no longer controlled by your temporary emotions, but by your eternal purpose. There will always be moments that challenge your peace. People will misunderstand you. Plans will fall apart. Life will hit harder than you expected. But discipline is what keeps you from falling apart with it. It's what keeps you grounded when everything around you is shifting. And when you've trained your emotional muscles, you won't need to force peace. You'll carry it naturally. It'll become who you are. Think about it this way. No one becomes physically strong by lifting light weights once a week. It's repetition, it's resistance, it's consistency. And it's the same with emotional strength. You build it by facing hard moments with steady hands. You build it by not giving up when it would be easier to quit. You build it by not letting one rough day define your whole mindset. You train like it matters because it does. And don't underestimate the small disciplines. Choosing to speak kindly when you feel irritated. Choosing to walk away instead of engage in a pointless argument. Choosing to take a deep breath before sending that text. These aren't small choices. These are defining moments. Over time, they add up. They shape you. They create a version of you that can't be easily shaken. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about being so disciplined that you know what's worth caring about. You begin to realize that not everything needs your attention. Not everything deserves your reaction. And that discernment only comes when you've trained your emotions. When you've given yourself enough space to choose growth over ego, purpose over pride. Training yourself to get unbothered means committing to the process. It means understanding that discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. It protects your peace, your vision, your future. And yes, it's hard, but so is staying stuck in cycles of reaction, regret, and emotional exhaustion. Choose your hard. One leads to freedom, the other leads to frustration. Every decision you make in private, every quiet moment of self-control, every silent battle you win, every time you choose stillness over reaction is shaping you into someone unshakable, someone unstoppable, someone unbothered. There comes a point in your growth where you stop reacting to everything around you and start rising above it. You realize that not every battle is yours to fight. Not every opinion deserves your attention. And not every situation is worth your inner. Being unbothered doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your peace, your purpose, and your power than about defending your pride. That's what it means to rise above and not react below. It's a shift from emotional survival to intentional living. Most people operate on ground level. They react from hurt, insecurity, ego, or fear. But when you rise, you begin to respond from vision, wisdom, and purpose. It's a whole different altitude. And make no mistake, it's not easy to get there. Everything around you will try to pull you back down. People will test you. Life will challenge you. Pressure will come. But the key is learning how to stay elevated when everything else wants to bring you low. Reacting from a lower level feels good in the moment, clapping back, proving your point, flexing your pride. It's tempting, but it always costs more than it's worth. It drains you, it distracts you, and worst of all, it detours you from the path you're supposed to be on. When you constantly respond to everything that annoys or offends you, you hand over your peace to people who didn't build it. And you're better than that. You're called higher than that. The ability to rise above is one of the clearest signs of inner strength. Anyone can react, but it takes power to stay grounded. It takes vision to look beyond the moment and ask yourself, is this reaction worth my energy? Is this situation even aligned with who I'm becoming? Because every time you engage something beneath you, you step out of character and into chaos. You weren't made for that. You weren't made to live in constant conflict. You were made to lead with clarity. And rising doesn't mean you avoid confrontation. It means you choose the right kind. It means you respond with authority, not anxiety, with principle, not pride. Some things you don't need to respond to, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Because your peace isn't up for a negotiation. Because your goals require too much focus. Because your calling demands maturity. That's what it looks like to walk in emotional authority. When you rise, your posture changes. You stop taking things personally. You stop letting petty energy dictate your actions. You stop lowering your standards just to match someone else's chaos. You learn to say, I see what that is, but I won't match it. That's what discipline looks like in real time. That's what maturity sounds like in conflict. It's the calm confidence of someone who knows who they are and where they're going. You can't be both reactive and purposeful. One will always cancel out the other. If you're constantly putting out fires other people started, when do you build what you were called to build? If you're always defending your character, when do you develop it further? If you're focused on who's saying what, you lose focus on what God is saying to you. That's why rising above isn't just good advice. It's a survival strategy for anyone serious about growth. And don't think rising means you never feel it. You do. You feel the sting, the disrespect, the offense, but you choose not to act from it. That's what makes it powerful. You have the right to respond from a lower level, but you choose to respond from a higher one. That's kingdom level thinking. That's wisdom in motion. That's strength under control. You've got to protect your altitude because everything that rises has to resist gravity. And gravity, in this case, looks like negativity, drama, insecurity, and fear. These things are always pulling, always tempting, always trying to bring you back down to a place you've outgrown. But when you train your mind to say, I'm not going back there, something shifts. You stop needing to win arguments and start focusing on winning the day. Remember, eagles don't chase flies, they soar. And the higher they fly, the fewer distractions they face. That's the goal, to get to a place mentally and emotionally where what used to bother you no longer even reaches you. Because you're not on that level anymore. You're not wired for petty. You're not available for nonsense. You've outgrown the need to prove anything to people who aren't even part of your purpose. Let them talk. Let the noise rise. You stay focused. You keep building, you keep growing, because your peace is found in your altitude. Your power is in your perspective. And your real strength isn't in how loud you can respond, but in how high you can rise. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Rising above becomes your default, not your exception. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. You lead yourself first. And by doing that, you position yourself to lead others. That's the mark of someone who's unbothered, not because life is easy, but because they've been trained for it.